Hello, welcome. Welcome, everyone. We're going to just give it a few minutes to allow everyone to join the webinar before we begin. This is a great opportunity for you to take a moment in the chat and let us know what organization you're representing and where you're calling in from today. We'd love to hear from you. San Francisco, yay, Adam from Los Angeles. Welcome. San Diego Symphony, wonderful. Ventura, welcome. Bay Area Book Festival, Berkeley, welcome. Let us know where you're calling in from. Again, welcome everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Hello, and thank you for coming here today. This is going to be a webinar on the California Venues Grant Program. Hopefully you all heard the exciting news that that's been extended until the end of the month on November 30th at 5 p.m. So that gives us more opportunities to get those applications in and let more of our colleagues know about this exciting opportunity. We're going to be walking through the California Venues Grant application today, its guidelines for nonprofit and for-profit. The information that we're providing today will be available on our website and can also be found in the California Venues Program and Application Guide. We'll make sure to let you know how to get in touch with us at the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions, you can give us a call or drop us a text, or drop us an email. We're here for you. We're here to help facilitate this process and make it easy for you to get the support that you need. Now we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome Eduardo Robles from Californians for the Arts to take care of our technical details for the webinar and our land acknowledgement. Welcome, Eduardo.
Hi, thank you, Tara. So closed captioning is being provided solely for the convenience of our viewers. Captions are visually displayed over the video, which benefits people who are deaf and hard of hearing, and anyone who cannot hear the audio due to noisy environments. If you would like to disable this feature, at the bottom right-hand side of the Zoom window, there is the live transcript button. Please click this button, then select Hide Subtitle to close the closed captions. This webinar is being recorded. For those that are unable to attend a live webinar or need to refer to content while completing their application, partner sites have made similar recordings available for your reference. As we begin this webinar, we acknowledge and honor the original inhabitants of our various regions. The land acknowledgement is a critical step towards working with Native communities to secure meaningful partnership and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and homelands. Our institutions were founded upon exclusions and erasures of indigenous peoples. We honor and are grateful for the land we occupy and recognize the ongoing damage of settler colonialism. Let's take a moment to honor these ancestral grounds that we are collectively gathered upon and support the resilience and strength that all indigenous peoples have shown worldwide. I am on the traditional territory of the Chumash peoples. I encourage you to name and acknowledge Native peoples where you are located in the chat box. The chat box will be closed after the land acknowledgement. The Q&A box will remain open for outstanding questions.
Thank you, Eduardo. Please take a moment to acknowledge where the land you're on. We appreciate that. I wanted to also thank Harshangi Bhatt from Lendistry, who's joining us today to go over tech tips and any questions as they arise in the Q&A box. Please continue to put your questions in the Q&A box throughout the webinar. And Sue Sigler from Cal Nonprofits is also joining us to be tackling the Q&A box as we go through. My name is Tara Gravis, and I'm the grants manager here at Californians for the Arts. Californians for the Arts is a small but mighty nonprofit. We're supporting over 15,000 subscribers and a membership base representing thousands of artists and arts and culture organizations. We take on opportunities that no single organization or artist can represent alone. We're an ongoing part of the public dialogue that the arts are a critical component of our lives and our communities. We advocate for arts resources and policies that benefit all Californians. Our work impacts every community across the state. California arts advocates actively advocated for a reopening plan allowing arts and culture at its full capacity. We thank everyone for taking action on our alerts and for working with their elected officials. Effective advocacy is collective and consistent. It's a critical component to the field. All events and venue entities know about this funding and opportunity to take advantage of it. Please share this information with anyone that you think might benefit from it. Please share these opportunities with your networks and please apply. Move on to the next slide, Eduardo. Thank you. And then now we're going to jump right into the program overview. Next slide. The first thing that I already announced was that the grant opportunity has been extended until November 30th at 5 p.m. So we're very excited about that. And we will be adding 2 additional webinars, one on the 23rd at 12:30 and one on the 30th at 9:30 a.m. So if you know anybody else that could benefit, please send them our way and we can help them. This program is eligible for anybody that has a physical address and operates in the state of California. This is going to be validated via your tax returns. And you can get up to $250,000 or 20% of your gross earned revenue that was earned, again, in the state of California. This is a complete and separate and new application. It is not affiliated with the SVOG or the California Relief Grant or anything like that. It's its own application. You can receive any other grant award and be still eligible for this grant. There are no real similarities between this and the SVOG. I get that question quite a bit. Think of this as a completely new and different grant, and you'll do best. If by chance you did receive the California Relief Grant, the only thing you need to know is that whatever amount you receive from that would be deducted from your final award. You do not need to do anything with that. You are going to ask for your full award, but Lendistry would deduct that before giving you your payout. Next button, please. Now I want to go into the stages of the grant or the eligibility of the grant and the program overview. You have to complete an application on the Lendistry portal. This is the most important thing for you to know. And one of the things I want to make sure you know is that if you start an application before November 30th, you can save it if you don't yet have all your documents. And this will give you the ability to upload the required documents after the deadline. Your application would not yet be live or subject to review, but you would at least have your foot in the door and have the ability to look at that. So I think that's important for you to know. The other thing I want to make sure you know is that there are various stages of the application process. I'll go over those toward the end of the slides. You can talk about that. And that you will need to link your bank account. And there is an alternative way to verify this information. This is so that you can receive your electronic funds transfer. And I'll go over that later in the presentation. Next slide, please. When we talk about, there's 2 sections of this grant. One is talking about the eligible venues, and then the other one is talking about the eligible live events. We are currently actively working with the state and with Lendistry to make sure we're clear about these criteria. But for now, if you are eligible for a venue and you fully qualify for that, please go ahead and move forward with the application. This tells you some of those required eligibility requirements, You do have to have a defined performance and audience space. You do have to have mixing equipment, an address system, a lighting rig, and you do have to engage one or more of the following individuals to carry out no less than 2 of the following roles. So you could literally have one person doing 2 of these things and meet this criteria. If the venue is owned and operated by a nonprofit and they're producing free events, then simply you have to have people that are paid employees managing the events primarily and not volunteers. Another question that comes up a lot is that, do you have to own your own venue? The answer is no. There is an approved NACIS code for an organization that does not own its own venue. So that is something that's really important that everyone knows. Next page, please. Under eligible independent live events, some things I want to point out to you are that a variety of organizations are eligible. Sole proprietors, C Corps, S Corps, limited liability corporations, partnerships, 501c3s, these are all eligible. One of the criteria is that you must have been in operation prior to June 1 of 2019, and that you must either be currently active and operating, or you must have a clear plan to reopen according to the state's criteria. Next page, please. Under eligible independent live venues, here are some definitions I wanted to point out. We've got some NACIS codes that are pre-approved. So there's 5 NACIS codes that are approved for this grant. Your organization needs to comfortably fit within one of these NACIS codes in order to apply. And you see there's one with events with facilities and one with events without facilities. It does not matter if you have used a different NACIS code for your taxes or for another grant application. As long as you can comfortably fit within one of these 5 NACIS codes, you should select that code and you should move forward with your application. It lists on the right-hand side for us that the principal business activities need to be around organizing, promoting, producing, managing, hosting events, comedy shows, theatrical productions, and that you do need to be charging a cover charge through ticketing, front door entrance fees, and that performers do need to be paid. And that 70% of your earned revenue needs to be generated through ticket sales, production fees, or production reimbursement, or the sales of event food and beverages. This is really important. I get a lot of questions around that 70%. As long as you are generating that 70% within those criteria, you fit the criteria. If you have any questions, please email or call. Don't assume that you don't fit. And again, if you meet the eligible independent live event criteria, please move forward with your application. Next slide, please. This tells us a little bit about some ineligible businesses. Businesses without a physical presence in the state of California are not eligible for this grant. Unfortunately, nonprofits that are not registered with their own 501c, so this is specific to organizations that are fiscally sponsored, are not eligible for this grant. And then the final thing I want to point out is that the criteria that they'll be using for this grant is a comparison between 2019 and 2020 between the reduction of gross earned revenue. So that's the criteria they'll use to determine the awardees. So you have to be able to demonstrate that in the calendar years 2019 to 2020, that you have at least a 70% reduction in your gross earned revenue for quarters 2, 3, and 4 of the comparison between 2019 and 2020. Some things I want to point out are that they are going to ask you for a copy of your financials for the calendar years 2019 and 2020 for Qs 2, 3, and 4, and they want those individual quarterly reports. You might notice that I keep stressing calendar year. I'm aware that we have many nonprofits who are on a fiscal year applying. Regardless of that, you want to use calendar year data to answer all of the questions regarding your financials and regarding your award. I know that later in the application, there's going to be a question that says something must match your tax returns. Doesn't matter. You want to use your data from your quarterly reports. Next page, please. And this talks about our eligible uses of funds. One of the most important things to know about this grant is that it is retroactive, that the funds can be used for anything from March of 2020 to current to cover employee expenses, payroll costs, healthcare benefits, sick, medical, family leave, insurance, working capital, overhead, rent, utilities, mortgage principals, and anything that is necessary to reopen your business after being partially closed, anything associated with complying to COVID-19 federal, state, or local guidelines, and any other COVID-related expense. So that's a pretty wide variety. I get this question a lot because now we're already into November of 2021. And so people have somehow managed to cover their expenses. Sometimes nonprofits have reached into their reserve accounts. Sometimes they have found other ways. Maybe they've done personal loans. What I want to let you know is that you can use these funds to cover these expenses and reimburse your reserve account or pay off any personal loans, that this is retroactive. Next page, please. Now we're going to get into the portal itself. On the portal, you're going to log in here. You're going to hit start application, and you're going to start creating your login credentials. So you're going to want to make sure that you use an email that is an email that's readily accessible to you, that is not any type of a generic email, and that you will be regularly checking, as well as you want to make sure that you use a real and working mobile phone number, because Legistry, after the fact, when they're reviewing your application, might be reaching out to you via email, via text, via phone call. So you want to make sure you're using working information for them to do that. Once you've gone ahead and registered your email and your phone number, it's going to give you a confirmation code, and that's for your own security. That'll be happening each time you log in. And to facilitate your application process, we're going to recommend that you gather all of your documents and you have all of the information you need before you begin. If you do that, this application will take you approximately 2 hours. You can save this application at any time. Now, I get a lot of emails from people, we can go to the next slide, saying that they get stuck on a certain page, or that the wrong information was added and they need to edit it and they can't edit it and they're stuck. I'm just going to tell you now that at the very end of the application, before you submit it or save it, there is an edit button. And that is the only place there is an edit button. And that's how you would be able to edit your application. We're going to go into the owner details next. Now, when they ask you about the owner, we know that nonprofits do not have owners. So what they're asking you for is, on your statement of information with the Secretary of State, you have listed who are the authorized signers for your nonprofit. Anyone on that is an authorized signer can be put in here as the owner. Whoever that is going to have a soft credit check done. This will not affect their credit by any means. It's simply in compliance with federal law, because we are receiving federal and state funding in order to fund this grant. So they're just going to make sure that there's no fraud occurring. Under the percentage of ownership, if it is a for-profit organization, you would put the appropriate percentage of ownership for whoever is filling the application out. And under nonprofit, you would simply put 0. Under the referral partner, we would like you to select Californians for the Arts, and then make sure on the bottom right-hand side that you tick that you're selecting text message policy so that they can send you information ongoing and you can receive those texts. Next slide, please. Under business information, they're going to be asking you for your legal business name. You want to put that in there. And then if you do have a DBA, you'll want to put that on the right-hand side. If you do not have a DBA, you will have to type in N/A. You cannot leave any part of this application blank. You also cannot put in blank spaces in any part of this application. Here, they're going to ask you for your EIN number or your social security number and your address. You cannot use a PO box. So if you do not have a physical address, you may want to use the physical address for a home address for your CEO, your board president, whoever's filling out the application. Then they're going to ask for your phone number, and they're going to ask if you're a nonprofit or a for-profit. It's really important that you select the appropriate answer here, because if you select for-profit and you're a nonprofit, then your application would be eliminated and vice versa. So please be sure to select either for-profit or nonprofit, depending on the status of your organization. We then go down into business entity type, and it's a drop-down menu. So you're going to want to type in there, select the one there that best fits your organization. Are you a C Corp? Are you an S Corp? Are you a 501c3? And then the date your business established. Again, you must be in business by June 1 of 2019. And finally, on the right-hand side, it asks you for your business URL or website. If you have one, please put that in there. If you do not, again, you will have to type in N/A. Next page, please. The rest of the business information, they're asking you about the purpose of your grant. So you can select from the drop-down menu any of those pre-approved expenses, the use of the expenses. And if today you select payroll, and then when you get funded, you decide you want to use it for rent, there is no problem there. You don't have to advise the registry. You don't have to do anything different. You simply need to keep whatever reference or receipts you have to cover that cost of that expense. We recommend you keep those for a period of 3 years. At this time, there are no reports required. We have not been informed of that, but you want to keep those receipts just in case you need that. Under the amount requested on the right-hand side, that is where you would use your calendar year 2019 earned revenue to calculate your 20% or $250,000, whichever is the least amount. Then when you go under gross annual receipts here, that's where it says it must match your tax return. You're going to ignore that and you're going to put your gross annual earned income receipts for 2019 on a calendar year. And then you'll want to answer the following questions according to your organization. Will this grant create new jobs? Under the number of full-time employees and part-time employees, they are asking you as of January of 2020, how many full-time and how many part-time employees did you have? And then under number of jobs created and jobs retained, they are asking you as of December of 2020 to answer those two questions. They're wanting to see how things were affected with employment due to COVID. Next slide, please. Under demographics, we start getting into some other questions. So the first thing I want you to know is that the first 4 questions are all linked. So whatever answer you choose to any one of these is going to affect your drop-down menus in this subsequent 3, 2, 1 questions. What we recommend, since we are an arts organization, is that you select business to business, service, professional, and arts. If you want to play around with it, you can. If you choose to select unknown, you can. Registry understands that. But if your goal is to align with the arts, you would select business to business, service, professional, and then arts. Then they offer you the drop-down menu from the NACIS codes. You again want to select one of those 5 approved NACIS codes that you comfortably fit within. The following questions are all demographics questions. And if you are a privately owned organization, you would answer those according to your status, whether you're a woman, a veteran, etc. If you're a nonprofit, what we're recommending you do is that you answer that according to the median or conglomeration of your staff and of your board. Next page, please. Here are a variety of list of disclosures. These are all the disclosures that you must attest to for this application. Please answer these honestly and according to your organization. If you have any questions about these, again, feel free to reach out to me at any time. Next page, please. Then we start looking into the terms and conditions and what we need to do before we submit the application. And this is where you will find that edit button on the bottom of the page. This is also where you can save this and come back to it later if you need to add more information or add your documents. And if everything is ready to go, then you hit everything is good and continue, and you submit the application, where your application will then be put into the awaiting selection process. Next page, please. And I'm going to invite Harshangi in now to talk about our tech tips.
Hello, everyone. So as far as the application goes, we definitely want you to use Google Chrome. This is going to be the best user experience for you. And this is because in the application, we need your data to be the most recent. And a lot of times, applications that you have in the past have old data in them. And so what we want you to do with Google Chrome is 3 things. We want you to clear a cache, use incognito mode, and use pop-up blocker. So cache data is basically data that's been kind of stored from other applications and, from things that you've entered in the past. Incognito mode is just going to allow you to enter that data in privately. And then pop-up blocker. So during your application, you will be asked a question ensuring that, is everything that you've entered correct? You have to select yes and then continue. So definitely ensure that these pop-ups are allowed. So block that pop-up blocker. Next slide. So these are just steps of how to actually do it. In each of these slides, you'll see you go to settings on the right-hand corner, and you'll just follow the prompts that are on these slides. Next slide. And this is the same thing for using the incognito window. You'll go to the right-hand corner and select the window. Next slide. And then same thing with pop-up blocker. So you definitely want to go ahead and make sure that it is selected to be allowed, moving from the gray to the right-hand side. Next slide. So one thing I definitely want to really touch base on is when you're uploading your documents. So all your documents need to be in PDF format. All the other documents like JPEG and things like that, they're not accepted and we can't open them sometimes. So please ensure that everything you have is in PDF. And you'll notice a sample here on the left. This is exactly what we want all your documents to look like. It's clear, it's straight, it's not blurry, there's no background. So we can definitely see it properly. A few things about your documents. Please ensure that your file size is under 15 megabytes. The file name doesn't have any characters or like symbols. And then if it is password protected, you will be asked to enter in that password when you're uploading. If you don't have a scanner to make it into a PDF, you can download these free apps here with your phone. And all you do is take a picture and then that converts it to PDF. Next slide. Using a valid email address. So please pay attention to this. We will be, like Tara mentioned, we will be contacting you via email and sometimes on the phone as well, but your email address needs to be specific to you. The system will not register info at or at contact.com or at noreply.com. The messages just won't go to you. So please ensure that you have an email address that you can access and that is specific to you. Next slide. And then uploading documents. So one thing I want to touch base on is if in the event that you put anything incorrect in your application, please ensure you don't create another application. So we don't want any duplicates. So please ensure if you do have any kind of like mistakes, call the call center because we will help you throughout this process and correct anything that you may have made a mistake on. And I'll give this back to Tara.
Thank you, Harshangi. Okay, we're going to start going into the required documentation. One of the first things that's going to come up is the application certification. You're going to be able to print that right on the application page. So you'll print it, you'll initial it, you'll sign it, you'll scan it as a PDF, and then you'll have it available to upload again. The other thing that they're going to ask for are your tax returns for 219 and 220, both your federal tax returns and your California tax returns. Now, we know that many of our nonprofits that are on a fiscal year don't yet have their 220 tax returns. You can simply upload either your extension or your draft. That's fine, not a problem at all. In this case of California, sometimes you don't have to file an extension or you're going to have that. Just type up a little letter letting them know where you are and type that and upload that instead. You need to upload your government issued ID. Generally speaking, that's a driver's license. Passport is also eligible. And then you need to upload your interim financial statements for the quarters 2, 3, and 4 of the 2019 and 2020 calendar years. And then you need to upload your official filing with the Secretary of State for your, depends on your organization, could be your certificate of organization, your fictitious business name, your articles of incorporation, whatever is appropriate to you. And if you are a nonprofit, you're going to upload your IRS tax exemption letter. So again, those are the things. So that again, they're just telling you again that you must have been in business by June 1 of 2019. Next page, please. We are going to look at that. Now, this just shows you where you print the application certification. This is your second opportunity to just verify that you are using the appropriate application and the appropriate certification based on your status as either a for-profit or a nonprofit. So make sure you print out the right one. It'll actually say right on the top, for-profit or nonprofit. And you again, initial, sign, and scan that. Next page, please. We can move to the next page. This is where they want you to link up your financials. So they're going to try to link your bank. This is via a contractor they have called Plaid. You get a lot of questions about this. A lot of people are concerned in today's environment about sharing this information. To date, we have not had an issue. We would encourage you to do it. However, if your bank is not included or you're just not comfortable doing it, then there is a workaround. In order to get to that workaround, you actually have to go through all of these steps and decline, and then it will give you that ability to upload a voided business check. Next page, please. I want to talk a little bit about the various statuses in the portal. You want to make sure to check your email, your spam. You want to make sure to check your voicemails. You want to make sure that that you're not getting texts or voicemails from someone you don't know, and so they're going into a folder that you're not accessing. The different statuses are incomplete. That means you have not properly completed the application. Maybe you haven't uploaded your documents. Maybe you left one of the fields blank. You need to go back in, finish the application process, and make sure it gets in. The next step is a waiting selection process. That simply means that your application is in the line with all of the other applications, waiting until December 1st when the application closes, and the employees or the managers over at Registry will begin looking at each application one by one, reviewing it for validation. That's the next step. Once you get into the review for validation process, you will most likely receive contact from an employee of Lendistry. They will not ask you to give you information that you've already submitted. They may, however, ask you to give them additional information, or for instance, if you're a nonprofit and you submitted your financials in a fiscal manner, they may ask you to provide it in a calendar manner. The next thing after that is you either move to the selected or not selected phase. If you're in the not selected phase, it simply means that you did not meet the minimum eligibility criteria. If you really don't agree with that and you think that this is wrong, please contact any one of the partners, myself, Sue, Neva, any of them, and we will try to find out for you exactly what happened, exactly what's wrong, to make sure you weren't inaccurately disqualified. If you were selected, you'll be addressed by Lendistry, and they will be letting you know that you've been selected and that they're going to send you closing documents via DocuSign. You'll have 48 hours to sign those documents and resubmit them. The time frame between being selected and getting your documents closed and then getting your funds can be anywhere. It's probably about 6 weeks because it's a 2-week waiting period, and then as you're there for the 2-week waiting period, they only disperse funds on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it will take just a moment for them to get those funds to you, just so you know, excuse me. Then if you have submitted your application and they've attempted to contact you and you haven't responded and it's been over 60 days, your application might be put into what is called an inactive stage. So let's say you didn't have a document and you still don't have it. And so your application's been put into an inactive phase. Once you have that document, you have to call Lendistry to get your application put into an active phase and upload those documents. So I just wanted to let you know all those statuses and what they mean. Next slide, please. And here is my contact information. If you need any help at all, there's my email address, there's my phone number. I do call everyone back within 24 hours, and I do respond to all emails within 24 hours on business day. There's also Lendistry's contact information. They're open Mondays through Fridays, except for holidays from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And there's the Cal Nonprofit contact information as well. Now we're going to take some Q&A now. I see we have a few in the box. And I think that Sue, you wanted to answer a couple of those live. Are you there, Sue?
Sorry, it helps if I unmute. We had a question in the box from somebody who's with an orchestra and wondering what NACES code they should use. And that, I think that the answer is that it would depend on whether they have their own venue or not. Would you want to comment on that, Tara?
Yes. So if they have their own venue, of course, they would select the one that says performing promoters of performing arts or related similar events for facilities. That's 711310. And if they do not have their own venue, then they would select the following one, which is 711320 without facilities.
You know, some people think that they have to own their own venue in order to qualify as someone with a venue, but that's not necessarily true, is it?
No, it is not.
Thank you. We have another question from James, who says, what if the owner of the filing entity is another entity and not an individual person? And I think that you discussed that when saying that the person who is named as the owner or the applicant needs to be one of the three people that appears on the organization's statement of information that's on file with the Secretary of State. Is that correct?
That is correct. And that's that sounds like that maybe they have a fiscal sponsor. And unfortunately, fiscal sponsors don't qualify. But James, if there's more to that, you can feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to discuss it with you.
And then, excuse me, we had another question from someone who does book fairs. And the question centered around performers needing to be paid because the authors are not paid. However, the benefit to them is that they get to sell lots of books. And I know that the guidelines talk about payment arrangements are what's customary for that industry. So it sounds to me like that organization would qualify. Do you agree?
I do. If there's a benefit there, I would definitely include that in the application. And if you feel more comfortable, you can always type out a quick little description and upload it with your documents.
And then we got that question about performing arts centers or presenters that are affiliated with universities. And I know that the guidance on that continues to evolve and that many of those organizations don't necessarily have some of the organizing documents that are requested in the application. Would you like to comment on that?
Yes, we have not gotten a clear answer yet from the state or from Lendistry on this. I am encouraging any of the university applicants that believe they qualify to go ahead and apply. It only takes about 2 hours. The benefit is well worth your time, but unfortunately at this moment, I can't give you a clear answer.
But we would say if you don't have specifically the documents that are requested, to go ahead and submit what you do have.
I would, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people do get confused about between the gross annual revenue and the earned income. And so particularly that qualification around demonstrating a decrease of 70% in 2020 over 2019. And I think it's important to mention that Lendistry will be looking at the earned income for those purposes rather than the gross annual receipts. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's why they're asking for earned revenue.
And so, and also we would want to refer people back to the definition of what earned revenue is, particularly if you're a nonprofit. So for purposes of this program, that would include ticket sales or cover charges, production or promotion fees, and sales of food, beverages, and merchandise. We know that nonprofits often include some other things in those categories, maybe interest income on your accounts or sponsorships, but you do want to refer back to the guidelines for what counts for earned revenue for this program.
Mhm.
And then let's see here. What else do we have? What happens if an organization presents events that are free?
Well, as long as they are free, but they are paying the people that are managing and producing the events, and they're not being produced by volunteers, you still qualify.
Super, thank you. And then we have a question about independent contractors, and should they be counted among the statistics that are requested for employees? Or
No,
Go ahead.
unless somebody gets a W-2, they are not an employee. They are an independent contractor.
okay. And let's see here. I'm wondering if, Kim, I'm wondering if there might be a typo in your question, which says that there was only a 23% revenue loss, not a 25% revenue loss. But we know that the standard for qualifying is that to look at that earned income for those 3 quarters that are mentioned in 2019 and 2020, and that you'd want to see an earned revenue loss of 70% in 2020 over 2019.
And again, that's on calendar year, because I've had a lot of nonprofits look at their fiscal year and they might not meet that on their fiscal year. But if you look at calendar year, they do.
Okay. And then I think another part of the question is events that are site specific. And I think we talked about that earlier, where you don't have to have a particular venue that you either own or a long-term lease. It's okay to do your events at multiple different venues, correct?
Yes, it is. Definitely.
All right. And so Armando, I think we just answered your question as well, that you can provide your entertainment events at multiple different venues. And what about people that might have been doing those events over live streaming during the pandemic? They would also qualify, because live streaming would be a particular type of venue as well, would they not?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I think we're reaching the end of what's in the Q&A box, but there's still plenty of time for folks to enter their questions there.
Yes, please do enter your questions in the Q&A box. I saw a couple of quick questions in the chat. We're an event entertainment company without our own venue. Which code would be best? We produce AV production and musical entertainment. That would be the code. I don't know if you want to pull it back up on the screen again, Eduardo. That's without venues. Oh, there it is right there. So it's 711320 without facilities. And then one more question. As a nonprofit, we distinguish between earned revenue versus large donations and PPP funding. That will affect whether we have a 70% debt reduction. How do we handle that in our revenue qualifications? Sue, I believe you covered what is earned revenue just a moment ago.
To review that, for the purposes of this grant, it defines earned revenue under the following categories: either ticket sales or cover charges, production or promotion fees, and sales of food, beverage, and merchandise.
Right.
And we did have a couple other questions coming in. Ben asks us to confirm that the applicant should be one of the 3 people listed on an entity's statement of information on file with the Secretary of State, and that is correct. If you're not sure who that is, you can go to the Secretary of State's website and look that up for your nonprofit or business. And then we have a question from Michael about entities that might be concessions providers for events. So for example, a caterer or bar concessions for a playhouse, would they be an eligible entity?
Well, unless they're producing events or have the venue themselves, no, the answer would be no.
Okay, thank you. Then we had a question about other resources for funding similar to this grant. And I think for today's purposes, we're speaking only about this grant, and you may want to consult the Californians for the Arts website.
Yeah. Eduardo, can you put the last slide with our contact information up, please? Wonderful. Okay. One more question just popped in. Yay.
This is again regarding about concessions and what if the concessions pays rent to the venue. I think we're trying to wiggle into that venue's qualification.
Yeah. And then there was a question about the independent contractors, again from Kim. Harshangi, did you want to take that one?
I was trying to see what was the question. So independent contractors are okay as long as they're paid.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That is very different than California Relief Grant. Okay.
It is. I think the difference there was that under the relief grant, those independent contractors could apply on their own, but that's not the case in the venues grant.
Okay. I stand corrected. Thank you, Kim, for bringing that correction to my attention. Okay.
Let's see here. We're getting a question from David about the owner address can only be chosen from a drop-down menu and doesn't show our address. Is there a workaround? Maybe Harshangi might know about that.
Yeah, so I had answered this in the chat, but so if your address does not appear, go ahead and email in the email address that was put here, but go ahead and email us your correct address so that we can ensure that that is updated in your application. Currently, our system has a set of addresses that sometimes doesn't register with your current business. So please email us the correct address and we will get that updated for you.
What would be the email address that somebody should send that to, Harshangi?
You can send it to Tara, my news grant at Californians for the Arts.
Okay, or that Tara answers at venues grant at Californians for the Arts. And I will say one of the other workarounds we've suggested for people is to choose whatever you need to on the application from the drop-down menus, but then type out a little note and save it as a PDF and upload it with one of your documents, just noting your correct address and that the system wouldn't accept it. We have a question about folks who are working remotely, and does the owner need to physically sign the application certification, or is a digital signature allowable?
Harshangi, it looks like you're typing the answer there. You want to answer that one?
Yes, so digital is okay for the application certification. You're welcome to like print and sign and upload, but digital is okay as well.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions before we wrap up today? I want to thank everyone for joining us. And again, thank Sue and Eduardo and Harshangi for supporting us in our presentation and answering all of our questions. Sue and I are eagerly standing by waiting to hear from you all. And we'll be holding 2 more webinars, as I said, one on Tuesday, the 23rd at 12:30 and one on Monday, the 30th at 9:30. So those will be up on our website shortly if you want to send anyone there to be able to register for those events. All right. Looks like we have no other questions. So we're going to give you 10 more minutes of your day back. And we wish everyone a happy Thursday next week. If you get a couple of days off to enjoy that with friends and family, we hope you do. Oh, one more. Oh, thank you. Okay.